Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into some really interesting material.
Yes, we've got excerpts here from Creative Flowdreaming, Manifesting Your Dreams in the Life You've Already Got by Summer McStravick.
And our goal really is to unpack this. We want to dig into the core ideas the book presents about, manifesting energy, shaping reality.
Exactly. We're trying to pull out the key concepts, see how they fit together in this flow dreaming framework, and help you get a handle on what the author is suggesting.
Right. Because it introduces this specific concept, flow dreaming. It's framed as a unique take on manifesting, connecting with some kind of universal energy.
Definitely. And there are some fascinating ideas woven through these pages that we'll get into. Things like the real power of our emotions, why maybe struggle isn't actually required,
Okay.
how your surroundings, your home or office, are more than just, walls and furniture.
And even a different angle on what psychics might be doing.
Yeah, quite a bit to explore.
Okay, so let's dive in. The core ideas seem to revolve around flow, manifesting, and creation. So first things first, what is flow dreaming, according to this book?
Well, the author, Summer McStravick, she calls it her creation, a unique variation on an old theme, is how she puts it.
Okay.
And fundamentally, it's described as a process of guided conscious daydreaming.
Guided conscious daydreaming. That sounds almost gentle. How does that link up with something powerful like manifesting?
That's the connection the book makes. It suggests this process lets your mind directly interface with these deeper, fundamental energies.
Which she calls the flow.
Which he calls the flow, exactly.
Yeah.
And the goal is to use that interface to, and I'm quoting here, turn your inner desires into your outer reality, to become, as the book says, a manifestation master.
So flow dreaming is the method, the how-to, connecting us to the what, which is the flow. What is this flow described as?
It's presented as the fundamental stuff everything's made of. The source material calls it God, or source energy.
Everything, like literally everything.
That's the idea. It's described as a swarming mass of quantum energy.
Wow.
There's a metaphor used: the universe is like a rope, and everything in it, including us as individuals, are strands within that big rope.
So we're not separate watching the flow, we're in it. We are strands of it.
Exactly. Your personal flow is described as your unique personal energy signature, like a small stream winding its way through a much larger ocean.
So the key insight then is this inherent connection and aligning with your own stream, your personal flow. That's crucial.
That's presented as absolutely central. Aligning with your flow means aligning with the great river of source, and that, the book claims, leads to a smoother path, more harmony, more peace.
And it encourages seeing everything as energy patterns. People, money, emotions.
Yes, not just static things, but dynamic energy patterns moving within this larger flow.
Okay, got it. So if flow is the energy and flow dreaming is the technique, then manifest this is the action part. Consciously working with the flow.
Precisely. Manifesting, in this context, is defined as consciously using flow energy to program the experiences you want to have.
And the mechanism is emotion.
Yes, programming the energies with your emotion. That's a key phrase.
It feels different from just, think positive. Programming with emotion.
It really does shift the focus, doesn't it? The book talks about pre-acting the future, feeling the emotion of the desired end result right now.
Pre-acting. I like that.
And it notes this isn't some brand new idea. It's ancient, found in older traditions, seen surges in popularity. The core concept that our inner state, thoughts and feelings, affects our outer world is becoming, more mainstream.
Okay, that leads us right into the practical side. How does this work? You mentioned emotion being key. The source calls it a powerful tool.
Hugely powerful. The core idea presented is that emotions aren't just reactions we have. They are actual directive tools we can use to program these energies. Yeah. And the source makes a really interesting point about how society often conditions us to distrust or squash our emotions, right? Women told to get control, men taught it's weak or unmanly.
Oh, absolutely. That's everywhere.
And the book argues that this cultural repression isn't just limiting us personally, it's making us devalue a source of what it calls immense power.
So those feelings we're told to push down might actually be useful. Powerful.
That's the potential insight here. Those very feelings could be the engine for creation in this model. The idea is we can learn and teach our kids to use and listen to emotions constructively, not just shut them off. There's even mention of a chart in the book about emotional states and their uses, listing specific feelings considered effective within the flow.
So it's not about being overwhelmed by emotion, but about consciously generating and directing specific feelings.
Exactly. It's less about focusing on the tiny physical details of what you want and more about consistently generating the emotional experience of already having it.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, say you want a flexible job to spend more time with family and have financial ease. The book suggests you don't focus on, like, a specific envelope-stuffing job.
Right.
Instead, you focus intensely on feeling the freedom, the joy, the relief of having your kids nearby while money flows in easily. You cultivate that feeling.
So for manifesting a baby, it's feeling the health, the joy, the excitement, those maternal or paternal feelings now,
Yes.
or buying a home, feeling the ease of the transaction, the happiness of being in this space, not just wanting the bricks and mortar.
Exactly that. Focusing on the feeling, the end result you want the flow to generate. The book points out our emotional reactions are often just habits, deeply conditioned. And those habits can either accidentally program stuff we don't want or we can consciously redirect them. It's about proactively pre-experiencing the state, feeling happily in love before the partner shows up, for instance.
That's a big mental shift.
Yeah,
From chasing something outside to cultivating something inside first.
it really is.
Another mechanism mentioned is viewing life differently as patterns of experience.
Yeah, this is another interesting reframe offered. Instead of seeing life as just this series of challenges or lessons we have to grind through.
Right, the struggle narrative.
Exactly. The book suggests seeing it more like a series of new and interesting encounters. From this viewpoint, you're not just a victim of stuff happening to you, you're more consciously choosing which conditions, which patterns you want to explore or maybe avoid.
So like if you lose your job, it's not, oh no, I failed. It's more like entering a new pattern, a new encounter.
That's the idea. It frames it as the difference between consciously designing your life's experiences versus just sort of bumping into whatever comes along and accepting those patterns passively.
Designing versus bumping.
Yeah. The author uses a nice analogy, consciously pruning weeds versus pruning plants in her life design, deciding what energetic patterns to nurture and which ones to let go of.
That feels more empowering, doesn't it? This ties into understanding cycles versus the flow itself.
Absolutely key for navigating things day to day, according to the source. Being in the flow is described as feeling harmonious. Things feel easier. Your efforts get rewarded. There's a quote, "Ease means that your efforts are rewarded." It's your flow saying, do more of this.
Okay, that makes sense. And the opposite, when you're not in the flow.
That's when things feel hard, difficult, laborious, like you're putting in tons of effort and getting nowhere. The book calls it swimming upstream.
We've all felt that.
Totally. And the book says this feeling isn't isolated. It can show up anywhere. Relationships, work, health. It's like every area of your life becomes caught in the same wrong direction.
So obstacles, resistance, they aren't just random bad luck in this view. They could be signals.
The source suggests they can be, yeah. Maybe even the gift of resistance from your own flow.
A gift. How so?
Like a clear sign saying, hey, this direction isn't aligned with your core energy pattern. It's trying to guide you back onto a path that feels better, more productive for you.
Okay, so if you feel like you're swimming upstream, how do you break out of that cycle? Just push harder.
Actually, the advice is the opposite. Stop pushing so hard against that current. Instead, swim sideways.
Swim sideways.
Yeah. Go back to the point where things started feeling difficult, that initial resistance. And from that point, consciously choose a different direction, a different approach.
So maybe the same goal, but a different ride to get there. One that feels less like fighting.
Exactly. Finding the path that feels more harmonious, more aligned with who you are. And the book stresses this isn't about giving up on the goal. It's about choosing an aligned path over a needlessly difficult one.
That requires some self-awareness. Recognizing that struggle isn't noble, it's maybe just off track.
Definitely. And these cycles, the book notes, can be short, like a few hours or days of things going wrong or getting stuck bickering with someone.
Or they can be long.
Much longer, months, even years, what the book calls the doldrums or being in a rut.
We use those phrases all the time.
Right. And sometimes, the source says, these low points just seem to end, almost unexpectedly. You look around and realize suddenly we notice the new, high, bustling view, maybe because you unconsciously shifted something.
And the crucial bit here is not blaming outside stuff for these cycles.
Yes, the source is very clear. Looking for things to blame just gives your power away. This framework aims to put the power, the locus of control, back with the individual and their relationship with their flow.
Okay. Which brings us to this idea of your default mode. What's that about?
The default mode is described as where we spend like 99% of our time energetically. It's the baseline level of your typical life experience.
Like an energetic set point.
Kind of, yeah. It has a certain set of parameters that just operate automatically. The
Yeah.
book gives examples, like someone who always manifests enough money, maybe not riches, but enough, because they just can't imagine not having enough. It's part of their default. Or someone who's always enjoyed basic wellness because that's their energetic norm.
So it's the reality settings we unconsciously accept.
Pretty much. And the book suggests that conscious flow dreamers learn to deliberately define this default mode. They put up energetic screens to filter out experiences they don't want and actively program what is allowed in their baseline reality.
And if you don't consciously define it.
Then the book suggests you're basically just accepting whatever energy patterns drift your way, stumbling through life, accepting whatever it throws at you, and habitually dealing with chaos or negativity. That lowers the baseline of your default mode.
But you can make it a source of power by defining it consciously.
Absolutely, that's the key. By consciously setting the rules or parameters for your default mode, you establish what's normal and acceptable for you. Things like, I'm always led to choices for my greatest good, or I'm always guided back to ease, or I never need to worry about basic needs. Making these conscious choices, the source claims, significantly shifts the quality and ease of your experiences.
That's powerful. Okay, moving on. The source talks about identifying and raising glass ceilings. What are those?
These are presented as invisible barriers, mostly in your mind and energy field, that limit what you believe you can actually achieve or experience.
What creates them?
A whole mix of things, according to the book. Limiting feelings, definitely self-doubt, being inconsistent in what you want or focus on, resignation, just giving up on something, and fundamentally, a lack of belief that you can have or do that thing.
And we might just call that being realistic.
Exactly. That's often the justification. Oh, I'm just being realistic about my finances, love, life, career prospects.
The author shared a personal story about this, right? Struggling to manifest a home.
Yes. She realized she had this internal ceiling of beliefs about what she could actually afford, and that was blocking her. Plus, she kept changing her mind about what she wanted in a house.
Creating a deadlock.
Yeah, it created paralysis, not just energetically, but also in terms of taking consistent physical action. The inner state and the outer actions were basically canceling each other out.
So it stops you on both levels.
Yeah.
How does the book suggest getting past a glass ceiling like that?
First step, according to the source, is just acknowledging it's there, seeing the hidden belief. The author said realizing it brought tremendous relief because it reveals something hidden about myself.
Okay, awareness first. Then what?
Then make a plan. That includes practical, physical steps and energetic work. The crucial part is focusing concentrated emotion, really strong feeling, on the feeling of the end result you want. Not focusing on the ceiling or the lack, but on the feeling of already having achieved it. That emotional focus, combined with consciously raising your belief level, is what supposedly raises the ceiling so the flow can bring it in.
Interesting. Okay. Another concept that might challenge some perspectives is working with the ego. Often in spiritual circles, ego is the bad guy.
Right. Something to be squashed or transcended. This source offers it, well, a different take. It doesn't frame the ego as inherently bad or just the container for negative stuff like envy or pride.
So it's not the enemy.
Not in this view. It's seen as a vital part of your greater you, and it has a specific, valuable purpose.
Get you.
The book suggests the ego is what generates impulse. That drive, that desire, that wanting that pushes us to seek out experiences, to engage with life, to, consume life fully.
So you can't just get rid of it.
The perspective here is no, you can't, and you shouldn't try to judge it or stamp it out. It's compared to a baby crying. It's just a part of your nature expressing a need or a drive.
How do you work with it constructively then?
By changing your relationship to it, treating it like a friend, an ally, a partner, not an adversary. The book suggests that when you do that, the ego can bloom into a positive partner that actually helps you in life and with manifesting. Knowing and accepting all parts of yourself, including these drives, is presented as pretty fundamental.
Okay, let's widen the lens now. The book talks about deeper connections. Self, others, the universe. What's the take on the nature of source or God?
It uses some really evocative metaphors. One is like a beautiful fabric filled with countless bright eyes.
Bright eyes.
Yeah, representing individual points of consciousness. God, in this view, is pure self-awareness, made up of the collective self-awareness of everything that exists.
So the idea of being separate from God,
Ah,
that's not seen as a negative thing.
no, interestingly, it's framed as a joyful perception, just a necessary splitting of perception, so there can be an observer and the observed, the experience of seeing and being seen. The book emphasizes God isn't sitting there judging us.
But reveling in the experience of playing.
Exactly, that's the phrase used.
What about suffering then, if God is just playing?
Suffering is acknowledged as very real within our human experience, part of the construct here on Earth. The book suggests it often forces emotional growth and insight, but crucially, from the perspective of Source, there's no judgment about it. God is also described as both an artist and a scientist, just fascinated by creativity, exploration, variety, which explains, the book says, why the world is so diverse, why there are different dimensions.
And that metaphor of God as a building with 1,000 doors.
Yeah, that ties into the idea of an ever-expanding source, one that's actually eager for us to create new doors to show itself more. It implies God, maybe even truth itself, isn't static but constantly growing and becoming.
And we as individuals fit into this as multi-layered beings.
Yes, as one of those eyes of God, you're presented as timeless, fundamentally part of the whole system, your physical body. That's just one place your awareness is focused.
Like the analogy of inhabiting a toy car.
Exactly, like inhabiting a toy car to play on a racetrack. Only part of your vast awareness is actually in the car, in the physical body.
So there's way more to us than just body and thinking mind.
Way more. The book describes us existing along a continuum of energy. Body, mind, soul, they're just gradations of energy on different scales. Your conscious mind is seen as a kind of bridging mechanism to connect with deeper levels of yourself.
And the soul, or what the book calls the greater you, it's not separate.
Not a separate thing, no. More like a level of information, a repository for the experiences we collect as an eye of God. This greater you is said to extend incredibly deep, maybe infinitely, permeating everything. And flowing involves shifting your awareness into these deeper parts, tuning into that greater you.
This greater you sounds like a pretty amazing inner ally.
The book definitely paints it that way. It's described as always there, always working for your benefit. It's the orchestrating part of your deeper self.
Always engaged in helping you experience life.
Fully and joyfully, yes. It knows you best, loves you more, understands what makes you happy, according to the source. Because it has that broader perspective, it can access resources and arrange things in ways our conscious mind can't grasp. The idea is you align your desire emotionally, and the greater you helps the universe deliver.
And manifesting becomes simple from that level.
As simple for your greater you as navigating a two-lane road is for you. That's the comparison used.
Okay, this makes sense for my own life, my own manifesting. But what about other people? Can you use this flow stuff for others, help them out?
That's a really practical question the source addresses. And the answer is yes, sort of. It suggests you can create a flow of energy potential directed towards someone else.
But there's a catch.
A big one. It requires the other person's agreement for that potential to actually manifest in their life. That agreement can be conscious, like them asking for help, or it can be energetic. They have to be open to it on some level.
So you can send good vibes, but they need to be receptive. Like if you're trying to help your spouse find a better job.
Exactly. You could flow dream for them, envisioning opportunities, feeling happy for their success. But the book warns, if their own strong negative feelings like doubt, fear, resignation are dominant, those feelings can divert or block the energy you're sending. They also need to be willing to actually see and act on any opportunities that show up.
So it's not about overriding their free will.
Definitely not. And the book advises getting good at this for yourself first, before trying it for others. It also stresses the need for discretion. Don't try to manipulate someone else's flow for your own reasons.
How would you know if you were overstepping?
The book suggests you'd likely feel their resistance or discomfort energetically. Your own flow will tell you when to lay off.
It mentions that people rarely actively block others out of their flow. Why is that?
Primarily because they don't know they can, according to the source. Most people's default energetic mode is described as wide open with no filters. They just absorb whatever energies come their way, intended or not.
So the flow is like this constant background communication.
A soup of communication is one phrase used, a two-way street of sending and receiving energy and information. And that underlying energetic exchange is presented as the basis of all relationships.
That leads into energy communication between beings. We're more than just physical interactions.
Much more, according to this view. We're described as radiant bodies of energy and information, constantly interacting on unseen levels. Our energy fields communicate instantly.
Is that the vibe you get from someone?
That's exactly how the book explains it. When you meet someone, you're processing the physical data, how they look, sound, but you're also instantly processing their energy field data, their past experiences, core beliefs, current emotions.
Which could explain instant connections or disconnections.
Precisely. Bizarre attractions might be streaks of similarity that your deeper self instantly recognizes. And instant distrust could be because some energies just don't interact well.
We can accidentally step into other people's energy fields.
Constantly, the book says. Think about feeling drained or grumpy after being in a big crowd.
Yeah.
Or walking into a room where people just argued. You can feel that tension. Right, that's energetic residue. And the source warns you can even absorb other people's energy patterns if you're unaware. Take on another person's flow, much like putting on their coat.
Wow. That really emphasizes energetic boundaries. And this connects to the impact of your environment, too.
Directly. Your immediate surroundings, home, workplace, are said to heavily influence your personal flow and vice versa. Your flow programs your environment, and your environment reflects and reinforces your flow.
Their energy patterns, too.
Yes. Environments themselves are energy patterns. The book uses an example of a man named Michael whose life lacked passion and romance. His home was described as having very beige, bland energy.
Reflecting his inner state.
That was the connection made. By consciously adding color, interesting objects, things that evoked feeling and personality, it helped shift his energy, which then opened doors for change in his life. The takeaway is your surroundings aren't static. They're a medium of energy to program.
So you should aim for energetic consistency between your spaces and yourself.
That's the suggestion. Having your home, your workspace, and your personal energy all feel congruent helps cultivate the emotions and experiences you desire. Disconnects in your environment, like a half-finished house or a chaotic desk, might mirror disconnects elsewhere, like relationship issues or life drama.
And physical objects can be anchors.
Yes, energy anchors, like putting pictures on your cubicle wall that represent freedom, if that's what you're aiming for. But the key, the book emphasizes, is when you look at those anchors, feel the joy and attainment of freedom, not the longing or lack of it.
The feeling again. Okay. The source also tackles a tricky subject. Life isn't fair and shouldn't be expected to. That could rub some people the wrong way.
It definitely challenges a common expectation. The argument presented is that perceived unfairness or inequality exists partly because we each choose or accept coming into a life with a different set of starting rules or limitations, race, class, location, physical abilities, etc.
And these aren't punishments.
Not in this view. They're seen more as factors that make the game of life more challenging and interesting from a soul perspective, offering different kinds of experiences.
And choosing an environment means accepting certain probabilities.
Yes. The example given is living in a flood-prone area increases the probability of experiencing a flood. The book clarifies you're not necessarily manifesting the flood by wanting it,
Right.
but you're increasing the likelihood by placing yourself within that environmental energy pattern and its associated probabilities.
How does this apply to something like health or illness? Can you just decide not to get sick?
The book suggests you can establish a ground rule in your default mode, an energetic baseline like being continually healthy and vibrant, but it stresses this works best when combined with aligned physical actions, good diet, exercise, etc.
And worry can mess it up.
Yes, worry and fear are seen as actively undermining that positive programming, because then you're sending conflicting signals, exuding two conflicting energy desires, wanting health but intensely fearing illness.
Okay, let's move into some of the broader insights and responsibilities discussed. The book revisits life purpose and lessons.
It does, challenging the idea that life is about learning specific, preordained lessons, often through suffering, dictated by some outside force.
So why do people have horrible experiences then?
The perspective offered is that most people stumble into so-called horrible experiences, mainly because they don't know any better energetically. They're unaware of the energetic blueprints they're constantly creating and reinforcing. It's not seen as punishment or karma in the traditional sense.
So with awareness, we could potentially steer towards ease and pleasure instead.
That's the implication. It strongly encourages letting go of beliefs that diminish your power, like feeling you have to prove yourself, earn worthiness, or that you're constantly being judged. The focus shifts to creating consciously right now, recognizing you're always evolving and becoming more.
What about concepts like evil and suffering? How does flow dreaming frame those?
It takes the stance that there isn't some fundamental force of evil out there. Instead, there is only that which causes suffering. Evil is seen primarily as a label we humans put on things, usually things we fear or don't understand.
So it's better to focus on the fear itself.
Yes, recognize the fear rather than just labeling something evil. Fear itself is described interestingly initially. It can be a friend, an alert system.
A warning.
Right. But the danger is when it hangs around after the initial warning. Then it becomes paralyzing, stealing your ability to take the next positive step to correct the situation with optimism or practical action.
And even darker experiences.
The book suggests their only real power is to cause suffering. But because you are fundamentally a part of Source, an eye of God, you always retain the power to choose to have had enough and energetically move away from that suffering, from that pattern. You can always choose a different experience.
That's a very empowering, if challenging, perspective. The source also mentions growth through perception.
This links back to being an aspect of Source exploring creation. You're not lost and trying to find yourself. Instead, finding yourself is this ongoing moment-by-moment discovery process. Every experience adds to your unique sense of selfhood.
So we're constantly accumulating experience and becoming more.
Exactly. Expanding your own awareness, and through that, the awareness of Source itself.
How does all this relate to psychic phenomena and predicting the future?
Psychic abilities in this model aren't mystical powers. They're described simply as skills in reading or receiving information directly from the flow. Intuition is basically being good at pulling data from the flow.
And predicting the future.
It's seen not as seeing a fixed destiny, but as perceiving potential lines of destiny situations that are already in various stages of forming energetically within the flow.
Ah, so that explains why predictions aren't always accurate.
Precisely. A psychic might read the most probable outcome based on the current energy trajectory, like predicting where a rolling marble will end up. But if someone uses focused flow dreaming, they can change that energy, change the marble's path, and thus change the outcome.
So free will and conscious creation can alter predictions.
That's the idea. Also, the book notes psychics aren't just reading your energy, they're reading the whole energy swarm around you, family, colleagues, even the companies you work for.
Which could explain insights about career changes, for example.
Right. They might sense unease or shifts in the company's collective flow, leading to a prediction about your job.
And can we develop this intuitive ability ourselves?
The book strongly suggests yes. Those gut feelings or insights about what might happen soon, they're seen as moments of dipping into your own flow. We all have the capacity, often undeveloped, to learn how to receive information this way.
So psychic skill is like the receiving side of manifesting.
Exactly. The counterpoint. Manifesting sends intention into the flow. Intuition receives information from the flow. The author shares a personal story about sensing an energy related to her mother after a tragedy, which later linked to future communication, showing how connected energies can tune into each other.
And historically, people have done this under different names.
Yes, the book mentions oracles, prophets, shamans, witches, healers, suggesting access to this energetic wellspring has always been part of the human experience across cultures.
The source raises a really fundamental question, too, about truth with a capital T.
It does. It acknowledges that the human desire for one fixed, absolute truth is strong. But it questions whether that's actually how reality works. Being told you're learning a current truth or a perspective rather than the definitive truth can feel unsettling.
Is truth itself, maybe, still forming?
That's the question posed. Is absolute truth something that's also in a state of becoming, not fixed? The book suggests we often want someone else to tell us the truth to avoid the responsibility of observing and discerning for ourselves.
What's the author's take?
Based on her experiences, even with deep energetic encounters, she feels some things are still becoming, and truth might be part of that dynamic unfolding. She advises caution with anyone claiming the final, fixed truth, referencing that building with 1,000 doors metaphor, again suggesting infinite perspectives.
A little doubt is a good thing, because it reminds you that your mind is still open.
That captures the essence of it, yeah. Maintaining openness rather than seeking rigid certainty.
Okay, finally, let's talk about personal responsibility and the collective flow. Does being a conscious creator come with responsibilities?
Very much so, according to this source. The energy you put out, the reality you create for yourself through your personal flow, doesn't just stay with you, it becomes part of the larger collective flow of the world.
So just focusing on getting mine could have broader negative effects.
That's the implication. If you create abundance for yourself but do it in a way that harms others or the environment, the book suggests that creates misery or negativity that seeps into the flow and contributes to a collective haze of despair.
So there's a responsibility to create with a bigger picture in mind.
Yes. Beyond just personal satisfaction, things like recycling, ethical consumption, helping others, these aren't just nice things to do. They're presented as actions that positively contribute to the collective energy field we all share. It also briefly touches on the complexities around blaming victims, urging consideration of personal convictions about suffering and our collective impact.
So flow thinking tries to balance the individual and the collective.
It seems to aim for that, yes.
Yeah.
Integrating the scientific evolution-only view with the idea of deeper source-level connections. We're seen as both individual creators and interconnected parts of the whole ocean. We're constantly co-creating reality, contributing to the mind of God as we go.
And the overall potential of using creative flow dreaming approached this way.
It's presented as having a potentially transformative impact, making life feel almost magical at times. It's about finding a balance between gracefully receiving the unexpected gifts life brings and consciously planning for smooth, foreseen outcomes.
Not defying physics, but working with energy.
Right. You can't flow dream a new kidney into existence, but you can use it to program the energy for a happy home, fulfilling work, better relationships, vibrant health. Life then starts subtly organizing itself to align with those programmed desires.
Sometimes subtly, sometimes wildly exciting bonanzas.
That's the phrase used. As you refine your default mode and raise those glass ceilings, you allow more complex, positive experiences in while keeping unwanted situations out. Your greater self helps bridge the gap between the emotional desire and its physical manifestation.
Before we finish, just a quick note on the source material again. Excerpts from Creative Flowdreaming by Summer McStravick, published back in 2009.
Yes, and she's positioned as the creator of this specific method. The book mentions her website, flowdreaming.com, has resources like articles, CVs, workshops, that sort of thing.
And she had a platform through Hay House Radio.
Correct. She was network director there and hosted her own show, also called Flow Dreaming, and notably co-hosted a show with Dr. Wayne Dyer, which brought these ideas to a pretty wide audience.
Did the book get good feedback from others in that kind of field?
It seems so. People like Denise Lin called it immediately usable, and Carol Rittberger praised it as insightful, fun, practical, and inspiring for becoming a manifestation master. It's cataloged under things like success psychology and affirmations.
Okay, well, we have certainly covered a lot of ground today. Really unpacked the core concepts of the flow, manifesting with emotion, understanding cycles, default modes, the nature of self and source, our energetic connections, all through the lens of these creative flow dreaming excerpts.
Yeah, it definitely presents a provocative framework suggesting we have maybe a lot more influence over our reality through our energy and emotions than we typically think.
Thinking about your own life as you listen to this, have you felt that underlying energy? Do you recognize those patterns the book talks about, times of ease, times of struggle, or swimming upstream?
It certainly gives you a different way to observe your own experiences, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought to take away from all this material. If our feelings are constantly programming the energy around us, like this source suggests, what might you be unintentionally creating right now in your default mode, just through your habitual emotional state?
And following that,
Yeah.
how could even a small conscious shift in feeling intentionally cultivated begin to reshape what shows up for you next?
Something to observe. Pay attention to how things feel. That seems to be the starting point.
Definitely worth exploring.